camera drivers, which are also at the top of this page.
Okay, let's go
So
back.
it depends what software. If you want to try playing with the ASI Studio, which I actually recommend, when I bought my first ASI camera, I used to use that. I was having trouble getting the right display on like fire capture, and I'd always go back to ASI Studio and just make sure that there was nothing wrong with the camera. And if ASI Studio saw the camera, then I knew it was a driver or some configuration thing.
Well, can I
Frank,
share? There was a thing where I could share my screen. Someone suggested sharing my screen.
There's a green button on the bottom
I
that says
just don't
share
know.
with an arrow.
Yeah, it's a green thing saying share.
Frank, the
Or
camera
not.
should work.
Okay,
I just used it's actually my camera, and I used that camera like a week or so before you took it. So I know that it works, and I don't think you need an ASCOM driver for what you're using it for.
okay. Okay, I hit share. Share.
There we go.
There you go.
Something's starting to,
Do you see my screen now?
Huh?
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, it says camera driver and there's a gray download button.
hold on. Let me. Okay, camera driver,
Yeah.
download.
Hmm.
It cannot be reached. It's been doing this to me for 2 months now.
Oh,
Let me
wow.
try it.
Every which way of downloading this.
You got to put in the 25% tariffs now. Sorry, it's too early.
That was bad.
All right, so restart the live stream. Hold up. I'm gonna try to click it over here. Maybe it's just your
Yeah,
computer.
I just did it. I just hit download and it just downloaded it. It doesn't go to another page. It just downloads it. It kind of temporarily opens a page, then downloads it to the download to my
Which is
downloads
which is every
folder.
other time I try to download everything. That's how it works. But this,
So I have one idea. You have uBlock Origin and AdBlock Plus running. So maybe close this window.
all right, close this
Uh,
window.
Oh,
I don't think it's AdBlock Plus because I have AdBlock Plus.
Yeah,
I
and
just downloaded, but
I have uBlock Origin and it downloaded.
okay.
well, you can try turning it off anyway, just in case.
Yeah. I use uBlock Origin.
It could, I wonder if there could be a privileges thing in the folder you're downloading to or something like that. Have you tried it on another computer or something like or some other device?
I have not.
Did it let you
Frank,
select the
Yeah,
location?
I'm about half, well, yeah. So both of mine are in my downloads folder at this point.
Frank, if you bring it Friday night, I'll bring my computer and we'll see if it works on mine. Because I used it on this computer like a week or so before you took it.
Okay.
And it
Friday
worked
night,
fine.
Friday night, I am babysitting. I won't be there until the next meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
I mean, worst case
You live
scenario,
close by, Frank? I mean, I live in Springfield, Delaware County.
Okay. I can come down. I mean, if you're willing to have me come down and work, I can come down anytime you want. I'm retired. I sit
Okay.
here and do nothing all day.
Yeah, if you want to stop over sometime, we could try it on my computer and bring yours and we'll compare and we'll just see why you're having the issue.
I mean, the other thing we could do would be to uh, like I could put this file in a Google Drive and post a link or send you the link. You could grab it and then I'll just delete it.
it's a good idea.
I
Yeah.
don't know if there's, I mean, it'd save you a trip. I'm not sure if there's other benefits to going to Joe's, obviously, because he could show you how the, no, he could show you how the camera works and kind of.
You can,
Can
yeah,
we,
you
can we
can
do it
tell us
this way? Friday,
My studio's 121 meg, and the drivers are about 13.7 meg. So the drivers are relatively small file. We could email that.
I'm gonna give him a link right now to my personal server. It's already coming.
You got it?
Yeah, one sec.
Okay.
Frank, you can stop over my place almost anytime though. You know, if you want to just, bring it with you and we can troubleshoot it.
Okay, can I give you my phone number? You can text me your address?
Sure. And you're a member, so, everything is right in the, club directory.
Oh, right, yeah, never
If
mind.
you log in and go to club and then into member directory, you'll find me. But I live right in Springfield, Delaware County.
And when I babysit my kids, they're in Havertown.
Yeah,
And
so
I grew
you're
up in
three,
Clifton Heights, so I know that area well.
you're 2 miles from me.
Yeah, exactly. So, Friday morning, I'm babysitting them. I'll be finished around 12 o'clock. Can I swing by like a little after 12?
Let's see. Frank. Yeah, why don't you call me Friday morning? I think I'm free. Yeah, call me on Friday morning. I'll give you my cell number. It's 484.
We are streaming live,
Wait,
by the way.
you're broadcasting all over
Yeah.
the
Okay. It's
internet.
XXX. No, I'll shoot you an email, Frank.
Okay, great. Thank you very
Okay.
much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Maybe we can
And-
get together on Friday if you're available.
Right.
There's 2 links you can click, Frank, in the chat to download your software. Try that.
Let me try that.
Frank, you remember the bazaar?
Oh, yes.
That was my favorite place.
I spent many dollars in that hobby shop in there.
Yep. I love that place. And there was
Yeah, when I got honors, my mother would give me $1 and I'd walk 1.5 miles to the hobby shop and buy a ship model.
and they have a putt and they had an arcade in there when I was in high school. That was my favorite part. Now it's just a Home Depot.
I know, yeah. The tragedy of it all.
Right.
So do you see the meeting chat in Zoom, Frank?
The meeting chat?
Yeah, there's a chat.
The very bottom.
Oh yeah, you're coming.
Yeah,
you're-
I'm copying the links now.
Oh, you're copying everything. I see. Yeah, if you go to the very bottom, ubergarm.com is one of my servers.
How big are your servers, John?
I got a couple of them. They're like VPS, virtual private servers. They're not too big. It's not bare metal stuff.
Like a terabyte or
Okay, I've copied
Not even.
I've copied all 4 of those links.
So those 2 on the bottom, you got to download those files and install them.
Okay.
So you can, once you're done, I'll delete them.
All right, I'll figure that out. I mean, I've got them copied here. You can go ahead and delete them.
Well, you have to download them, so then I can delete the file
You're
off my
going to
server.
delete the files after you download it,
Oh,
the links.
Yeah, there you go. You're getting it. So it's working. Once you have the other one downloaded, I'll delete them and you'll be good to go.
That's a fast, look at that fast server there, John.
Oh yeah, only the finest. I used to work for Linode. I think I have a DigitalOcean server and a Hetzner server. I like to keep them spread out.
That's that quick download running Windows 20 whatever.
There you go. There you go. You got them both. Install those 2 and your camera will hopefully work.
okay, good enough. Let me try this. If this works, we won't have to worry about Friday then. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Frank, I just emailed you my information.
Okay.
Okay.
And let me just check on the phone. Got it. Okay, good enough.
Hey,
This was a handy conversation, Frank, because I just downloaded updated drivers. I was looking at the version I have of ASI Studio on my drivers, and they're seriously outdated. So thanks for bringing this up.
I've been had the camera for like 2 months now, and I can't even download the stupid drivers for it. I felt so frustrated.
That would be, yeah, that would be. Something looks like it's blocking that mechanism to just generate the download.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, especially since others of us have the ad blocker stuff, and it didn't seem to matter.
yeah, that was weird.
But it's a computer. There's a lot of weird things that can happen.
Exactly. It's a computer. That's the answer to everything. It's a computer.
Well, I mean, that's the one important thing you have to get used to with this hobby. It's patience, patience, and more patience.
Yep.
And if you forgot the first answer, see the second answer.
Well, the other hobby that I just picked up since I've retired is 3D printing.
Ah,
And as everyone else has said many times, I wanted to throw that printer out the window.
3D printing is a black hole.
Well, there are certain
Frank?
models that I want to build that they just don't have models of.
Yeah. Frank, I'm curious, what are you running, like as your operating system?
The Windows version? What do you mean?
You muted, Joe.
You're muted, Joe.
Is it 10 or 11? I
11.
mean, it's, okay. Mm,
It looked like a DNS timeout error to me, but I only got to see it for about 2 seconds.
I mean that it tried for so long. It probably timed itself out because it ran for so long and then gave me the error message.
Yeah,
So it was a timeout, but why is it timing out?
you can check your DNS there. That's a whole nother. Call Brett's company for that.
yeah, that's a
He's
whole.
shaking his head. He's like, I don't want to do that. All right, we're going. Rock and roll. One down. Thanks, Frank. I'm excited you can try that new camera out.
Well,
So you're planning to do planetary with it, Frank, or are you going to use it for that and also some deep sky stuff?
I'm just going to start off local with the planets. I know we have Mars, Jupiter, and Venus up there right now. The other night was gorgeous. I wish I had the camera working because they were all three of them right there. So I'm going to start off with that and see where I go from there. Because I'm just starting into this. My previous pictures of the night sky were with my smartphone. So I've had enough of that.
Cool. The other software you might want to look into is SharpCap. They have a free version of SharpCap, and then Fire Capture is free. So those are two real commonly used software programs for planetary acquisition. They can do deep sky stuff too, but very common for planetary.
Someone else mentioned that, and I did download that. I do have it on the computer, but I needed the driver for the camera before I did anything else.
Sure. Oh yeah, definitely.
As long as you can stand the cold.
Yeah, I bundle up. One of my favorite comments. I give tours on the battleship New Jersey. People are on the New Jersey in like February. They're saying, "Oh, it's cold." I say, "Well, yes, it's cold, but it's not February in the North Atlantic breaking ice off of the superstructure cold, which I have done."
Oh geez.
While going 22, 25 knots into the wind.
I was in the Coast Guard more years than I can count.
So there's ice breaking off of your face.
I'm sorry?
There's ice breaking off of your face, and
Yep.
Shave an ice beard.
you're
It's
soaking
cold.
wet.
Has anyone been brave in the cold to get any images? It was half decent last night. There's a little bit of a moon, but
Yeah, last night was nice. I went out last week on the 27th, I think it was. I finally got the filters installed for that monochrome camera and all that stuff. And, then of course, it's been cloudy a lot lately and rainy and like way too cold.
yeah.
And I thought I kind of ran everything in the house, and everything was fine. And then of course you go out and you set up, and I did it on my front walkway, and because I wanted to shoot the witch head and the rosette, just to get some like 7 filters worth of data, so I could at least try to understand how do I combine this, how do I process this, because I'm used to one-shot color stuff, and I was having a problem with the ASI Air communicating to the AM5 mount. I've been having a problem when it's doing polar align. It sort of slews part way and then stops. And I've tried every port, every cable, swapping cables, all that. So it's either some buried software bug in my setup, or it's just some inherent limitation of the USB subsystem in the AS5 mount. It works to slew, it does all that. It's just during polar align. So it seems like it's some kind of weird bug. And the only way I found to fix it is to just power like literally everything down. I power everything down. I like unplug the power plugs, not that throwing a switch is any different from unplugging the power
Wait
plug.
5 seconds.
Why not, right? Superstition never hurts in these kind of things.
Are you an electrical engineer?
I was glad I was bundled up to your point, Frank, because 3.5 hours later, I'm finally like walking back in the house saying, okay, hon, I think everything is running and I think I'm getting data now. So I think what I said earlier about I'll be in soon and maybe we can watch something on TV. Well, I think now we can do that. So like Lou said, patience, because I was ready to just, okay, this is not happening tonight, and my feet are already cold, and I want to go inside now.
I was out on the 27th too, but that was just stick the C star outside, come back inside. I didn't stay outside very long.
Yeah, and then of course, clouds rolled in at around 11:30 or something like that, and then some branches got in the way. So a lot of the subs, my test subs, I had to purge because of branches and other stuff, but. I'm hoping I have at least something to go through the process for the first time.
I am glad that I'm apparently not the only low-tech Luddite with the C star in this group, by the way.
No, not at all.
Yeah, how many C stars are there in this group at least? I have one, Tom has one, Gary
I
has
do.
one, you have
I
one.
drank the Kool-Aid.
I don't have one.
Yeah, Steve's got one now.
So half the group.
This close to buying one. I just can't stand the cold.
That's what the C star is great about. You don't have to stand out there.
Yep.
Take it on a tripod, come back inside.
It's nice to set it up after you get your main scope set up too. You just take it outside, sit it down and turn it on.
Exactly.
Hey guys, I have a question on darks. I just picked up a 533 because I was worried about tariffs. And temperature range, you take it like every 20 degrees, or is one dark good enough?
I usually take a group and average them. I find that to be better. If you take one of anything, it's kind of, you're not going to get the benefit of the noise reduction if you're doing an averaging of your darks. Is that the question?
No, it was temperature. Right now it's 30 degrees outside.
Is it a cooled camera?
And in the summer it's going to be whatever, 80, 90. is it temperature dependent? Should I take, some at 30 and some at 50?
Well, set your temperature, Jim, on the camera.
Yeah.
Set it to like -10 or -20, and then take your darks there, and that'll compensate. In the summer, you wouldn't be able to get down to that, so you might only be able to get down to 0 degrees C. But that temperature setting in the software for the camera is the actual temperature of the sensor. It's not really tied to ambient, and the camera itself, I think, can go like 45 degrees below ambient, whatever ambient happens to be, C, for 45 degrees C. So if you're like, most of the time, even in the summer, I can sometimes shoot, like spring and fall, I can shoot easily at -10. The camera setting -10 degrees C, and in the summer, a lot of times I'll go to 0 degrees C. So my dark libraries are mostly -20 and -10, and then I'll do like 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
It's been frustrating because
A lot of times I'll bring the camera out to the garage, because especially now the garage is cold, so I'm not burning a lot of energy trying to cool it, and I'll just let it run overnight.
It's been frustrating because it doesn't focus. I have to move my mirror.
For dark?
But I'm looking forward to trying it.
Darks are just with the cap on. You're talking about darks,
Right.
right?
But I need the darks for an image.
Are there two things happening?
Am I what?
Are there two? It sounds like there's two things. There's the question about the darks, and then there's something about focusing, but they shouldn't be related, right?
I have a reflector. I have to move my mirror.
What's that have to do with
Get it
darks?
to focus. I have to move it forward.
It does have to do with dark focus, John. It's just that the question was about the darks, but then he's got a secondary problem is that he can't take lights because he's got to get the focus.
Oh, yeah. It's a separate issue. Yeah, like
Yeah.
like John's saying, yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. But the darks, does that help with your dark question?
Well, it was also, I have a 174 mini, black and white, which isn't cold. For that type of camera, would you take a couple different darks at different temperatures?
Are you using that as a guide camera?
No. I was using it mainly for galaxies until I bought the color camera. But I have a lot of images I haven't processed yet. And I was just wondering about, do darks have to be pretty close to the temperature you took the images at?
Yes, they should be the same, as close as possible, the same temperature and the same exposure time, and the same gain. There's 3 parameters with darks. It's temperature, time, and gain.
Okay.
So you want to have those. Now with an uncooled camera, it's kind of tricky because your temperature is going to vary over the imaging session. So you wouldn't want to do like a light and then a dark, a light and a dark, because it would take a long time rather than doing the dark separately. So I think if you get close, I think depending on the software you use to process, some won't even accept it unless it's within like 1 or 2 degrees. So that might cause a problem if it's in like your file name or in like the FITS header, the temperature. I'm not sure if the camera does that. I know on the cooled cameras they maintain temperature data, but I would think the uncooled would do the same.
I think the uncools do.
Sensor on the chip.
I know, like the Canon cameras used to put the temperature out too, so I think most of them put out a temperature value in the FITS.
I think so. I think that's true. Does anyone know for sure?
I've seen it in the data from like the SharpCap data, because there's a text file with every image, with every RAW, and I see a temperature is listed in there. I mean, but I'm not sure not that sure where it's getting it from because it's an uncooled camera. I don't know if it has what sophistication it has in it, you know?
To be
Yeah.
honest, I don't think that's the correct camera for that job. You know, if you're trying to do galaxy imaging with that tiny little sensor. I mean,
Well, the 533 isn't that much bigger, really. I mean, it's bigger on one side. The long side's as big as the square side of a 533. It's like 11 point something millimeters. And
I just remember when I was
It's
using,
in there.
remember my Canon, trying to get the right temperature is just enough of the right ones. I'd have 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees. Then you'd have something that jumps to 13 for like 7 frames, then 7 degrees, and I'd wind up putting, the camera in the laundry basket when the clothes come out of the dryer to get them closer to, what the temperature was.
Okay.
It, um, or in the refrigerator. I mean, we've all tried this.
Yeah.
That's why we buy cooled cameras. It's
Yeah.
just it's easier because I
But
think
Yeah, it makes it
might not,
easier.
you might not want to worry about that too much with that 120, with that My suggestion would probably be to not to do it on the 533, but not worry about it too much on the
I mean,
old camera.
I think you might even introduce noise if you add different temperatures. If
what
you
I typically, I don't shoot long periods like you guys do, but I've used 174. It's maybe my longest, maybe an hour, but typically like half hour or so. Last spring, we were doing that Galaxy Challenge from the Astronomical League. They were all like 30 minutes from each galaxy to galaxy. I would do one dark, whenever I was doing an imaging session, I would do a dark right in the very beginning of the session. And I would do one before I closed up too. And typically you're going to get maybe a 10-degree shift. And I would try at applying each dark master set and just see how it looked if it, but I didn't really notice much of a difference. I kind of like to use the one at the end of the session better, which you think wouldn't be as good because it would be colder, so it'd be less noise. But I seem to have better luck with the one at the end of the session.
Yeah,
I
what,
did- I
what
did-
some people, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Joe.
What some people do is they take their darks in the middle of the session.
Yeah.
So they're getting
Right. Yeah.
essentially, the average of I guess the temperatures and to try to compensate for that.
Yeah. I did look, Jim, at I have one of the 485 planetary cameras, and I just looked at a bunch of different header information, and the temperature is in there to the 10th of a degree. It is stored in the actual sensor temperature is stored as part of the data set. So you probably can, if you look at the actual headers, or like Tom's saying, for the SAR files, the text file that's associated with each SCR file, and the temperature on that text, it's right before the data starts. The
Well, that
frame.
would be really convenient.
It seems to be real. I mean, it isn't like a number. For instance, I went back and just looked. I took pictures on the 24th of January, and it was earlier in the evening, maybe about 8 o'clock, and it said it was 3.6 degrees, and that's probably about what it was. It was a little bit warmer of a night. It's the warmest night we had in January, probably. And so I know in the summer I've seen it in the 20s, and so it's getting it from somewhere. I'm not sure. Must have some little RTD or something inside there, a little thermistor.
I bet it's one of the cells right on the sensor, because even like almost every CPU chip, I mean, almost every
Yeah.
chip has some little piece of silicon that's
Yeah, but
so
it is reading.
it's an easy thing, a relatively easy thing to measure in silicone.
I wouldn't sweat it too much either because these cameras have such a low dark noise, or the read noise, or not the read noise, was it? The amp glow. They have a low amp glow. And what the dark's really trying to do is pull out that background. And I've broken all the rules. I used to keep around a dark that was just like 1 second at a random temperature, and I would just use that for everything. That got me through the first year. So it's not, I wouldn't sweat too much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not that critical.
you
It's
just need to do
not
a
as critical
comparison
calibration.
to see what the real difference is.
Unless you're imaging more than a minute per sub, you probably won't notice much, is my guess.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's true.
But-
These cameras are absolutely amazing nowadays. And how well. they're-
Now, that being said, the 174 is really good, very flat. Excuse me. But I have a 482, which is like the color version of the 174. Same size chip, same size pixels, about 5.8 micron pixels. And that thing has got such a wicked amp glow. It is unreal. I mean, you can't even use it for EAA work. Even if you aren't taking any pictures, just to use it to get a usable, nice little image to look at your 10 minutes, the gradient is so strong, it's unbelievable. But if you take a dark before you start, it's beautiful. Flattens it right out. So you really need it for that one. That's why I was never taking darks originally with the 174. I have since then, but after the 42 experience, I said, well, maybe I should do this, it'll help a little, but it doesn't make much of a difference with the 174. But on some cameras, if you now the newer cameras don't have a lot of amp glow. This one I wanted because of the large the large pixel size,
It's
And
funny you mention that, Tom, because I saw ant glow at Cherry Springs, but I don't see any in my backyard. I guess because the sky's so bright.
yeah, the sky's so bright, it's just being mixed in with your sky noise is overwhelming your amp glow, whereas Cherry Springs, yeah.
I know at Cherry Springs, I said, what's this glow at the corner?
wow.
Well, it's not light pollution.
Yeah, when I first started taking you just doing EAA stuff, the gradient, I wasn't expecting any kind of gradients in these images, when I stretched them. And I thought there was light leaks from somewhere. And I looked online and actually there was a guy YouTube, one of the first ones I saw, which was very misleading, was a fellow saying, "Oh, you have to cover the gap between the Newtonian, the gap between the focuser and the tube, because if you do that, all that gradient stuff just goes away." And I'm like, okay, I didn't know any better. I was just starting. I have about 3 hours of photography under my belt there, So I got an old rag and I wrapped it around the thing and still got the same gradient. I'm like, what's that guy talking about? But yeah, when there's a lot of things I didn't used to do, but the but actually it's amazing, all these little things you pick up with time.
Yeah, try on there. Yeah, you'll learn more in the summertime when we're all out during the new moon, and you can actually be there next to all of us, with individual questions and hands-on. And don't we have some kind of clinic coming up in March, or is it April?
March, we have our last indoor clinic. We have 2 indoor clinics. If they happen, we have I don't think anyone is registered yet, but it's far off. I'm going to mention it at the meeting on Friday to say, hey, you really got to register, because we need it for handouts and stuff like that.
Is anybody here
But
going?
there isn't one on photography, and there isn't like even a sky one until I think April. There's going to be one, the first outdoor clinic. Although we've got a really early Valley Forge Star Party. It's March 8th, which that'll be interesting. That's our earliest one I think we've ever had.
Really cold.
A month away.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to the Smithsonian here?
Yes.
Yeah.
John?
I think there's a waiting list now.
Yeah,
Tracy-
you're on
Yeah.
wait list. That's what I
It's
saw.
full. It's full. It filled up earlier this week. I think Al and Vita got the last two seats.
the
But
last
there is a
slot.
waiting list if anyone is still interested. There might be some cancellations.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah,
always
something can come
one
at the
seat
last
in
minute,
the
but-
lavatory, but you have to share that.
Right, right.
That's the jump seat,
That's right.
Bathroom in the bus?
or maybe it's the dump seat. Wait a minute, I forget.
I don't know.
know.
No one's
You're
gonna,
gonna edit that out of the YouTube, right?
no one's gonna object if we, ride on our own and open up two seats. Right?
I wouldn't
No,
think so.
in fact, I had the thought of maybe doing that, just if someone else needed to ride,
Yeah. Missy and I were talking about that as well. Yeah. But only because my knee is messed up and I don't know how long I can stay. If I could stay for 3 hours bent.
right.
It sucks getting old, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think they'll
It
accept
beats the
cancellations
alternative.
until March 8th, I believe. So yeah, if someone needs to or is thinking of going on their own, I mean they can certainly do that and not, lose any of the deposit they put down.
Is there any are we going on a specific tour or is it just like a free for all? Because
Yeah, I don't believe there's an organized tour at this point. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's always an option to do that. I'll have to read the notes. There's some notes on it. I have to look over that. We're also not picking it up in Radnor. We're picking it up in another location, not at the Radnor Township building. We couldn't get that to park the cars. So I think the spot that we're using is about a mile away.
Yeah,
it should
I think
still
it's
be
near
pretty
near
convenient.
the hotel where sometimes people went out to eat afterwards.
Right.
Right across Route 30, is it?
I think that's it. Yeah, I'll have to look.
Yeah.
But,
well, there's this last time my wife and I were there, we went on this fighter jet thing and they strap you in with the 500. Man, you're upside down. It hurts. You're hanging from your that strapping is keeping you from falling down. But anyway, I actually wanted to fly that Cessna they had there.
right.
Anyway,
I think it'll be a good trip. I think it'll be enjoyable,
they won't let me fly the SR-71. I'll just take off.
The one that they have there is the one that set the record, the transcontinental record.
Maybe
Yeah.
ask them if they can prove it.
Yeah, I think they did it on its last flight, actually. It may not have been its fastest. It's probably the fastest that was recorded, but it's probably going just as fast.
Come on, Joe, me and you will hijack it and we'll just
Yeah.
Does anyone have
Titanium
any other-
skin.
Does anyone have any other any astrophotography questions or any?
sorry.
I'm good.
Yeah, I do. I've got the Sea Star and still relatively new to it. My understanding from reading the manual with the Sea Star is that it basically interleaves, if you will, dark frames as necessary given the conditions. So one question is that correct? My understanding of the Sea Star, or should I be doing something fancier than that? The other is more general. It's about resolution. As I understand the Sea Star, it's got about a little under 3 meg of resolution, if you will, pixels, which sounds like a lot until I remember that my Fuji X-T5 has got like 40 million. How does 3 million compare? Is that like a really limiting factor in getting good photo quality? So those are a couple of those are my major questions for the evening.
Does somebody have a C-Star image? Andy?
Yeah, I got a whole folder of them.
Again,
Uh,
I mean, I don't have a C-Star, but as far as resolution goes, you can still get tremendous satisfaction with even a lower resolution camera like the C-Star, because in that kind of a setting, it's the at that focal length, the real short focal length, you'd need a boatload of pixels in order to be like to have the sort of spatial resolution optimized for that. So when you're shooting wide field like a C-Star does, and that's a relative term, obviously, wide field, but compared to like a real long focal length setup, the resolution is the data is really undersampled, so you wind up with it's like the rules don't really apply anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and I'm not doing a good job at it.
Yeah, I think the C Star has like a 2.5 arc seconds per pixel. I think that's where you're at.
Yeah, so you're about double where you'd be for deep sky in terms
Yeah,
of
where you typically would want to be. Yeah,
normal rule of thumb.
but who's sharing right now? That's
I
Scott.
am
Okay.
Scott. Yeah.
Okay. When you're done,
So-
Scott, I have one picture that has 8 pictures in it, and you can kind of get it's a sample. Now the image I have are they're processed, not right out of the C Star.
Yeah, I mean, this is the JPEG right out of the C Star
Yeah.
with it. I mean, I can show anything
It's
else. I
pretty
wasn't sure
amazing.
what we were
Something
thinking
like
of.
the basic JPEG you get out of the C Star directly is a little greenish, because most of these sensors are more green sense. I mean, of course, they're more towards the green because your eye is more sensitive in the green. And so if you just remove the green noise, you gotta just if you do nothing else with the image, just bring it into a package like Serial and say remove green noise. Your colors all shift and they get really you can get much more balanced looking. Uh, but you can save all the raw files, each sub, if you want, and it gives you at the end, it gives you a stacked raw file. But if you got airplanes or something or satellites going through, it can be a nuisance. So if you save all the rolls, then you can get rid of the ones. You can drop the ones out that have issues.
Yeah, I mean, there's Orion, so you can see color-wise a little bit cleaner. This isn't processed or anything. This was directly out of the C Star as well.
Yeah, certain objects like that, or like the dumbbell in the summertime, or even M8 in the summertime, Lagoon and stuff. They're nice and bright, and so you get a very colorful image, and the noise isn't too bad, even just the JPEG you get.
Yeah, and even if you look at the resolution of that, it's still very pleasing. So I wouldn't worry. I guess my point is I wouldn't worry too much, Tom, about that really low resolution for this application.
And I think also the resolution, it's targeted towards 1080 by 1920. Like it's not targeted to be a really high resolution image like a lot of the other ones with it, because kind of where it's designed is you use for the most part the image out of it on your phone or a desktop. You're not trying to blow it up into posters where you really need to like zoom into it and get more resolution. So
Yeah, I've been having a
the
blast
computer
with it. I've
screen,
been very happy with a lot of the pictures I've got. I've done some post-processing with Serial. I started downloading some of the raw files directly from the C Star, but haven't mustered the patience to do a lot with that. But yeah, I've been very happy, especially with the ease of the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like such a blast to go out there, fire it up, wait a couple of minutes, say go find the dumbbell nebula, and it does, and it's neat.
definitely.
I can show one here that's had a little bit of post-processing. Um,
That's a little cleaner.
Wow.
so you can do a little more with them.
That's really good.
Nice shot, Steve.
Oh,
That is nice, yeah.
And Tom, to answer your question about darks, the way I understand it is when you do the C star, there's a moment where it says calibrating. That's when it does the dark. I think it does it at the beginning
That
of
image
the
enhancing, I
sequence.
think it may do it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
when
I'm
it does
thinking.
the
It comes up
dark.
as image enhancing, and it's doing
Okay.
its darks and things like that then.
You don't have control over it, and unfortunately, it doesn't save it. Like that's the one thing is that it doesn't save those dark files, so you can't use them later for processing. But yeah, it's just internally handling the darks.
Huh. But it does make life simpler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does, yeah. It's really good for students too, and you know, people just starting out, because like with the solar filter coming, you know, you could just drop it outside, get an image of the sun, go out the next day, get an image, and you can see how the sunspots are moving as well as changing shape or disappearing or whatever. It's a very handy little piece.
Oh, speaking of that, Tom, I just saw in the app, in the settings, they added a demonstration mode. I don't fully know what it does, but there's this demonstration mode where it simulates stargazing. So that may be something that we want to look for in terms
Oh,
of like presentations.
Oh wow, yeah.
And
I
then
didn't know that. I
random
mean,
go-to.
I haven't gotten it out. Well, I took it out about 10 days ago or so. Haven't processed the image yet. I was just doing a couple images. I was more or less trying the I was just verifying that I'd always shot and using the Bluetooth, you know, with my device within like 50 feet. And I just set it up to go in station mode so I can be anywhere within the range of my Wi-Fi. So now I don't have to be in my sun porch or relatively close to the sea star. I can be any room of the house and control the scope outside, which is nice. Um,
So it's working for you, Tom?
yeah, it worked right away once I put it in station mode.
So I've
Going
tried
to
I've tried a couple times to do mosaics with the Sea Star now that it has that capability, and I can't seem to get it to run or stack, if you will, for more than about 55 minutes. Does anybody
That
else?
that seems to be about the limit.
Is that right?
Like, yeah, I tried it and I saw some posts online when I was reading about how to do it. And right around there, it just seems to kind of like fade off. And it doesn't seem to make a difference what it is that you're trying to shoot. It just always seems right about there. It just kind of loses it. But, you know, there's nothing noticeable, but it'll just keep saying, I think it starts like star trails or something. It keeps giving it an error
Yeah,
and
right. It looks like it's gonna add the next frame, and it's hitting some things for a little bit, and then it says it failed. I forget what the message is, and it tries the next
yes,
one, and then
failed to
Yeah.
stack or something.
Does that have to do with the fact that the field rotation is getting too
Well,
significant
well,
after that amount of time?
well, you do see the field rotation, and but it would be nice if it at least it completed one pass of the mosaic before it's quit, because
look,
it doesn't sometimes. You know what I mean? Because it paints the mosaic like it does, at least it paints like one full frame of the mosaic and then moves, versus maybe doing a little bit, and so I don't ever get the full mosaic or the full area that I've asked it to do.
Tom, when you're done, I'll show a mosaic that I have.
Yeah, I'm mosaic. Anyway, these are just a couple
This
shots.
is
You can see
great.
they're pretty short exposures too, like 24 minutes. There's M33. On the JPEG, this was really green. Just removing the green, all this comes out. The blues and the red hydrogen two areas come out. This is the lagoon. 5 minutes, this is a double cluster, and then the color is pretty
Yeah,
good.
good color.
So
Yeah.
it's a pretty interesting. So you can do fair amount pretty easy. I was when we were at Cherry Springs, which gives you a real boost. I was just doing that in the background while I was visual observing. I could just have that thing run in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a mosaic M33, and you can actually kind of see that
you can see
there's
the
lines in it, and if the mosaic skips a frame, it just continues on. It doesn't try to make up for anything that it lost. So
So you get different
unless you,
exposures.
yeah, unless you get a perfect mosaic and everything, when it stacks it together, you're kind of like, how do you balance this with all of the light pollution, all that? So, I mean, it would work great in a really dark area, but in our area, you get mixed results. Let's
Yeah,
put it that way.
it does drop frames sort of semi-randomly, although I think it's worse when you're near the meridian where you have the most field rotation. I think it gets the fussiest.
Yeah.
Or if you get any kind of wind, you're not going to, you'll get a little vibration, you'll lose some of the images. I mean, typically, if I were to, from chronological time, it's 30 minutes. I will have stacked maybe 20 or 21 minutes. And I'll lose 9 minutes of subs. That's what it seems to be. That's my kind of record.
This one's a
Seems
little
like
bit.
the more careful I am in setting it up, as far as getting it closest to the like really being super level and things like that, and doing a compass calibration, the more fussier I am with that, the less frames I drop. They say you can be within 3 degrees of level, but you start dropping
No.
frames, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that they came out with it, but I definitely think they still have some process to go. Because I mean,
You do
you
get
know,
these weird shaped images.
yeah, you get this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, this one. I mean, you can tell up here where it
Yeah.
kind of was trying to figure out what to do with it. So, you know, the core looks pretty good, and you know, you can take this and kind of trim it up, but really
And that-
depends on what you're trying to
That's a
capture.
that's a good example where the mosaic function, it works for that because
Mhm.
that you can't get that in a single field of view with the C-Star 50.
Yeah,
No, you can't, yeah.
as you tell, I tried to do three different times to do it, so
Yeah.
came out decent on.
Is
I think
there
that one comes out the best.
to hook it up to a wedge, maybe?
You-
So-
Actually,
That's a whole other topic.
The
Has
uh,
anybody ever tried?
the Queef the lazy
Yeah.
kid did a YouTube on that where he hooked it up to a wedge, if you will, and just and then I think he had to do something within the software to tell it to.
You have to
You had
tell it
to
that it's
tell
at the
it it
North
was at the
Pole.
North, yeah,
Right.
North Pole.
So
I'm wondering if they would come out with that next. It's just a simple piece of code.
the comments behind it were that because of the way the arm design is and all that, it puts a lot of strain on it. So most likely ZWL will never directly support it because it would degrade the quality of the telescope is the main answer that people perceive. So you can trick it into it, but they'll probably never officially support it, unfortunately.
And Cleve, in one of his things, mentioned that the first time he tried it, he was not careful about aligning the tripod and had to catch the sea star on the way down to the back, so that would not be my optimal. If I can screw something up, I will. So I tend to avoid that.
I just put it on an HEQ5 mount. That won't tip over. Complete overkill.
Thank you. Those were very helpful answers. I appreciate it.
Main thing with the sea star is you just kind of learn a little bit. There's definitely a lot of information on YouTube of people doing pretty much anything with it. So it's at least a well supported telescope. So
How about
definitely
how
like
about
it.
software? Has anybody picked up any new software they want to talk about using?
Has anybody played with the new version of Noise Exterminator?
I haven't.
I've seen a couple of videos on it, and I used it with the most recent image that I processed. You have more control over some of the values, but I don't understand it well enough to be able to know exactly what it does other than just playing around with the slider. There is a real-time preview, I believe, with it now, but it's pretty slow.
Yeah, I've played with it a little too recently over the last few days.
I'd like to see it in action.
It is nice. They have like a low frequency and a high frequency sort of intensity or level control. And it's nice. It if you dial it back from sort of the default's like 90% noise reduction. And I found a lot of times that makes the image look a little bit fake. It's just way too smooth, and doesn't posterize it, but it just almost looks like it's kind of a watercolor or something. It gives it a weird effect. But I found that pulling those sliders down a little bit, even in the old version, even in version 2, you can adjust the intensity. But this allows you to do it in both the low frequency and high frequency. So the high frequency, you would look at brighter regions and stuff like that. The lower frequency, you can look at what it's doing in your real dark regions, like the black parts of the frame, and you can kind of fine tune the effect so that you don't get that sort of mottled look in the darks and things like that. So but I do agree with you, Brett. The preview, even if I did a small preview window, from the main image, it sits there and cranks for 5 or 10 seconds. I don't have a super fast computer, but it's reasonably fast. So it looked like it was a big improvement over it in terms of the fine tuning things.
So say that again, Gary. When the low frequency noise is, it adjusts that separate from the high, like the dark noise, the left side of it.
Right, yeah, from the high frequency noise. So rather than having one conglomerate, one like composite slider that just does everything, it's 90% noise reduction or 80 or whatever you set the slider for. If you click the let me open it so I know, see what it's called.
Can you show us an example?
Here.
No,
I was playing with your picture, Brett. So that's when I experimented. I went down because you had such great data with the witch head that I went down. You could really get some black areas and super bright. So I was able to really play with those sliders. But it's where are we here? So noise exterminator. So yeah, there's a frequency separation, which has high frequency and low frequency denoise. Then there's a scale similar to what you see in like if you were working with something like an unsharp mask tool, you would have how many pixels is the sort of scale that you're working on. And then you can also do a number of iterations. So it'll kind of successively sort of approach the final result. And then there's even a thing called color separation, where there's color denoising. And I found that like on the one-shot color cameras, you can really see this sort of almost rainbow pattern in the background. And I think that's because of the lenses that are on the actual sensor giving you the RGB pixels. So you can actually play with that. I have not done that. All I did was the frequency operation when I was playing around with your image. So Brett, if you could, this is like spectacular data from a recent trip of Brett's. You're
really neat.
Brett.
Yeah, it is, Brett.
I saw a thing this morning that Keeve, the lazy geek, put out. It was just put out this morning, evidently. And he was going over the Noise Exterminator 3 and then Graxpert, and he was playing around, showing the differences. And Noise Exterminator 2 and Graxpert were relatively close. Noise Exterminator 3 blows away Graxpert the way it is now. But one of the things he was trying was removing noise before you stretch and then after you stretch. And he did both ways with both software packages. And it seems like with Graxpert, as a rough rule, it's better to do it before you stretch. But Noise Exterminator 3, he had better luck doing it. He did it after he stretched, and then the last thing he did was do the noise reduction. So that was curious.
Yeah, I've done both. I've done my routine workflow is I do it before it's stretched. So I don't do it until I do deconvolution before doing the any kind of noise stuff, because the noise reduction can affect the kind of the input values for the deconvolution.
Right.
So, and I typically, like if I remove the stars, which a lot of stuff, for shooting nebulosity is how I process it. I'll do the noise reduction on as the first step after I have the starless image, after I generate the starless image.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, he was saying that's what he always. That's what his work. I mean, I always do that first, but I'm in Grasper, which seems to be better. But he said it's good, and he showed some comparisons. It looked a little better, which he was kind of surprised with the latest version that it came out a little better. He thought doing it after he did everything. This is one of his
Yeah.
last steps. So
Yeah,
it's like I mentioned. I don't have. I mean, I use the Grasper, so it doesn't change
Yeah, I
me.
mean,
But I figured I wanted to mention that to you because I know you use it, and
I've used Noise Exterminator after, like later in the process. I've used it like twice. I think that's the most I've ever used it. But there was one image that I had that I just wasn't happy with, like some of this low-level modeling stuff, some of this texture. And I used it was like fully stretched, a little saturation boost, that kind of thing. And I wound up using Noise Exterminator dialed back afterwards, and I really like the results. So even though they recommend not doing that, it does seem to work. And I think it's interesting you bring that up because with the new controls, you'd have even more ability to fine tune that and not sort of overdo it.
yeah, just for reference, all his tests, he didn't fool with he took the default values because he wanted this to keep it simple, and to do exactly the same thing. So he just took all the defaults for the Noise Exterminator 3 and just kept them where they were and processed or whatever it was, 0.9 or whatever, some values. But
yeah, that's interesting.
I can
but that was
see
just for
also,
testing. He said he fooled with that more, but with that result, using the standard defaults, um, that was what he came up with. But it looked like a real improvement over because he showed comparisons with Noise Exterminator 2 versus 3, and it's like night and day. I mean,
wow.
there's a big difference. It really is a big difference with Grasper too. I mean, it's a version 2 in Grasper were close. Some things were better in one versus the other. It was pretty small differences, but this is much more noticeable differences.
That's interesting. Yeah, when we get to reap the benefits of friendly competition in the
Right?
Yeah, really.
the
Which I'm
industry, right?
hoping pushes Grasper to do
That's
more,
why Russell Croman came out with version 3 because
Yeah,
people are
because
They're on
the
his
freeware
heels.
stuff. That's what he was saying. Says the freeware stuff started to get almost as good, so it's like put pressure on. So they had to come up with this. As you're paying for it, as a huge jump. So
Yeah.
It it makes me wonder because I've trained Uber Smooth, which some of you guys have used,
Yeah.
and Uber Smooth is trained to work after stretching. And that's because it's a lot easier to get data that's been stretched. So it's harder to come up with a big collection of linear
Oh
data.
yeah, I imagine it would
And
be.
so if RC Astro stuff is doing better on stretched data, it could be an indicator that they're training on stretched data sets. Just
Yeah,
speculating
maybe
wildly.
they're doing both.
Yeah.
I was surprised how well it worked on stretched data. And I totally agree. I mean, if you look at even a lot of scripts that like are in PixInsight scripts, one of the first thing, like look at star extraction. One of the first thing the star extraction does, if you look at the
Oh yeah.
StarNet script, is that it stretches the data.
Yeah.
And it just uses like, one of the screen transfer function kind of stretches.
Yeah.
It says
Straight up
where,
auto stretch or something.
Yeah. For
Okay.
most things, these kind of parameters work based on where that lump is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I think the tools are quite impressive though. I do like having the I think I'm going to really like having the finer controls because one of
Oh,
the
I would
things
think that
that
would be.
I've been becoming more sensitive to is just if it's too noise free, it actually, besides losing a tiny bit of detail, it starts to look unreal because there's noise in the universe. I mean, it isn't like there is where and these things are sanitizing it so much, or let me put it this way, have the ability to sanitize it so much
It's too flat.
that it gets too far removed from like reality.
Well,
Who knows?
the AI
Interesting.
metaverse.
Keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's amazing how far they've come with the software. Remember when all this first came out? I mean, before I even had PixInsight, and I was just using an old Photoshop. I was floored at what I could, produce. And now look how much easier it is. We went through 8,000 different steps before, and now you have, blur exterminator, star extractor, Graxpert.
Yeah, it is impressive when you look at it. Because even I was batch processing this like 7 filters worth of data, and I didn't take a lot. I only took like 30 to 40 minutes, maybe an hour at the most on each filter because of clouds and trees and stuff. So I had anywhere from say 30 minutes to say 45 minutes worth of data on each filter. And I was thinking, and each one has flats, and then they all had the same bias, and I had 2 sets of darks because I shot the narrow band twice the exposure. I did 2-minute exposures on that, and I did 1-minute exposures on the straight LRGB that I was going to extract the star field from, so I can have white, basically true color stars in the image. And I'm setting all this up, and like the file lists are just, and I'm thinking back of when doing that in the Photoshop days when you literally subtracted out, you made a layer which was your dark, and then you subtracted that out, and then you applied your flat frame, basically with one of the blending modes. And I'm thinking it's just so much easier now. These tools are just fantastic.
Yeah, they really made a huge difference.
I'd be curious. You showed some data that Brett got. I'd love to hear a little bit about your trip, Brett, and maybe what you
Yeah.
thought about your imaging there. That's some really amazing
And
data you're
how
getting.
long have you been doing this hobby now?
I started when the club had the imaging workshop.
A year ago?
That was I think it was in April last year or May or June or
Yeah, it's less
something
than a
like
year.
that.
You were able to produce that data.
this is pretty much all I've been doing for the last.
Somebody's paying attention.
I thought that made my jaw drop when I opened that.
Yeah.
Like John was saying too, when I opened that email, it was like, oh my God, this is great.
You know
Yeah.
how difficult that is, Brett? I mean, people killed for that.
I'm pretty excited about it, and I have to tell you, I've said it to both John and Gary, and I'll say it again to y'all that I appreciate so much the time they took with me that first night. I learned so much. Well, they exposed me to a lot. I don't know that I retained much of it, but this is all I've been doing with my spare time, it seems. My wife has suggested that I am working harder now than when I actually had a real job. So this was I took a trip to Tucson. The Tucson Astronomy Club has a dark sky site at it's called Chiricahua Astronomy Complex.
This is
It's about actually I can show you where it is. It's right here. It's about an hour and 45 minutes southeast of Tucson, and this place is beautiful. We're looking at it from above. These pads here, members can reserve for a night at I think $20 a night. I joined the club, and I set up actually right here on this pad here for 2 nights. The weather wasn't so good, so I only got 2 decent nights out of it. But the rest of this facility, these pads here are they run them out to club members for like a season or annually. Over here are some observatories, if you will, that club members have that have like roll off tops that they keep their equipment in all the time. This is a learning center here, which is got a nice conference table and some other stuff inside. Here is the club's 40-inch Dob. Over here are some of the other club's telescopes. These are two dormitories. I was able to rent a room in here for 2 of the nights. There's 10 rooms here, and I think there's a little bit less than 10 in here because there's also another little conference or learning area in here. But it's a room that has heat, which was nice, and 2 bunk beds, and there were a couple of showers and bathrooms in each one. Nice restroom facility here. Paved sidewalks a lot of the way, a lot of the property. Red lights illuminating the walkway. It was kind of like Disney World for astronomers. And to give you an
Yeah, the
idea,
Vatican Observatory, which like traces its lineage back at Castle Gandolfo, has got a place in Tucson too.
Well,
And apparently it's like really state of the art. I mean, I got involved in that somehow, and it's really high tech what they've got. And I'm not sure exactly where it is, but
I think we need to increase our
Definitely
fees a
clear
little bit so
skies.
we can get a field like that.
yeah, it's pretty nice. There was a little glow from Tucson, but other than that, it was pretty darn dark. Somebody had taken an SQM reading, but I didn't pay many mention to notice of it. But I think Bortle 1, Bortle 2, depending upon who you talk to or what site you use. But yeah, this image came from it was
what was the weather when you were there? Was it
so I'd hoped to have 5 nights. I ended up only 4 because I got in late. And the one night it snowed. This is at about 5,000 feet elevation. Another night it was cloudy. So it really had 2 good nights out of the 4, but it was cold at night. It was a lot colder than I had anticipated, and I was limited into what I could pack. I was packing a telescope. I didn't have a lot of room for clothes, so I was shy about a layer.
Oh man, that's tough.
no.
Now, the whole facility has Wi-Fi. So once you're set up, if you have your equipment on their Wi-Fi, you can go into to that common area
Oh, good.
and warm up. But when you guys know, I mean, it was 20 degrees, I guess, Fahrenheit, and that, if you don't have enough clothes on it, you can't stay out very long.
No.
It was worth it, dude. I mean, that is spectacular.
So this
yeah,
was
that's amazing.
Thank you. So it was a little over 7 hours of integration. There were 2-minute subs. It was a Red Cat 61. It's a 300 millimeter focal length, 61 aperture. So it's about a f5. It's 2600 MC Air. It's the one that has the ASI Air built into the camera. No filter. And did this in PixInsight and then some work in Photoshop. Don't really know my way around Photoshop very well. When I first processed, and John and Gary were talking to me about this. There was a white streak. There was a whole bunch of subs that had satellite streaks in it, and I had kicked a fair number of those out. And Gary and John and you folks indicated that maybe I didn't have to do that, which I'd like to talk a little bit about. But there was a streak right along here that I removed in Photoshop. But it's curious, Gary, when I sent that stacked image to you and John, I didn't see it there. So I don't know what happened, but it was there when I was processing it.
I actually did notice it when I was playing with processing it.
Okay.
But it wasn't until afterwards. There was a diagonal. So I sent you an email actually with the image.
There it is. This is yours.
And if you look at the bottom here, I'm using my pointer. Look underneath the chin, right near the bright star towards the left. I'm saying the bottom because I'm thinking of the image vertically. But there's a streak along your left edge.
Right here?
Yeah, there,
Yeah.
and then follow that towards the other side of the image.
This way?
Now, I don't know if it doesn't look like part of the nebulosity, but I'm not sure why it would be there or where it would come from.
I don't know either. But what I was talking about was a straight line right down here. Just like it was a satellite. But actually, I can do this.
Oh, no, that I didn't see.
An airplane.
There was faint like whiteness on the image, Brett,
Yeah.
right where you were pointing.
Yeah.
Here.
No, no, and on the left corner going top to bottom
You know, the
in
left
the
side. Go
in
back.
the other image.
Go back to the previous image. Right
That
there.
one, if you can
That-
see it
That's an airplane.
faintly.
See how there's three. You can get rid of that easily.
So I don't. Do you see it on mine?
But it might not be artifact.
Do you?
Because if I look at like Brett's image, there is a brighter ridge there. So it could just be part of the like part of the reflectivity in that area. I mean, look at Rigel's sitting there lighting up this
Yeah.
face, right? I mean, look at like Rigel looks like a blowtorch coming out.
Right.
So and the star even on the left side of the field is bright. It's not Rigel bright, but it's a bright object.
Right. So that's the other thing too that I did, and that brings up another question I have. This is Gary's. This glow from this star, I kind of use like the patch tool in Photoshop to kind of dampen it down. And
What stacking algorithm did you use?
I'm sorry.
What stacking algorithm did you use?
Well, it was weighted batch processing, whatever their default stacking algorithm is. I think they changed it in 1.9, but that's above my pay grade.
You can select another one and see if you can notice a difference.
Okay.
What is that one? General studentized something.
Yeah, one's ESD, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one's RCR that has really high rejection.
Yeah, you can try playing with that again and seeing if that doesn't. Yeah, because look, it got rid of all those.
Well, no, ones like this, I took out this. I loaded. I loaded everything here just for the purpose of showing this. These I removed.
Oh, in there. Let the algorithm take them
Leave
out.
them in.
Yeah,
Okay.
you probably didn't have to. The only things I remove is sometimes like an airplane, like the whole fuselage and wings of an airplane goes through or something. And there's big flashing lights, and it's kind of like
You can't get rid of it any other way.
it isn't worth it. It's just too big an object.
Yeah, right. You can leave all those in there and just restack them.
Okay. Thanks.
Because when you restack them, it'll keep that frame, but it will eliminate those pixels that make up the line.
It's just noise, so as long as you have enough good data, it'll
Yeah.
just filter the bad data out.
Exactly. So that'll help increase your SNR.
Still a good image one or another.
Either way, dude, you know,
This is totally beautiful.
emphasizing this is absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all saying that. I'm pretty happy with it too, and frankly I'm pretty happy of how far I came in such a short period of time. Gary, I do agree, and I see the difference. Gary went and processed this, and there's these cool little galaxies. Now this is mine, and it is blown out a little bit here in this one. And if you look at Gary's, he's got, it's much more detailed because
there's texture in those.
Yeah, that's pretty cool looking there. So, and the other one's down here. That with mine, it's just a little. I blew it out a little bit. So I guess when I'll go back and I'll restack and I'll put those satellite streaked images back in, and just be careful maybe not to push it quite as far.
And this, I didn't use any masks on this when I did those galaxies. That was all just real careful curve stretching, and black point adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So there's none of that was masked.
Okay.
So you don't, if you don't mask it, you don't run the risk of getting like some kind of weird gradient where the mask is ending and it's getting back into the image. But yeah, I think seeing the detail in the galaxies, I think Brett will really bring out, a nice touch. I tell you, it's still when I look at yours, it just really catches my eye. It's just a great composition. I love actually part of that jet coming out from the star,
Yeah.
from Rigel there.
Rigel.
Yeah.
It looks like a big spotlight on that face on the witch head.
It is definitely spectacular.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, when you try it again, obviously don't eliminate this one. Just, try it and then compare it.
Okay.
If you see some faint lines, try a different, another one of the algorithms. Or, you can also play with the parameters. Maybe we should have a PixInsight tutorial once a month or something for people who want to process. I was trying to do this like every time I had data.
I would love that.
Yeah, I was trying to do this every time I had data, but just to be on Zoom and while processing my data, and people can jump in and ask questions, but I don't have any data. It's too cold.
Yeah. I did a fun thing when I was out playing with the mono camera, like just trying to get that working. I also set up my tripod with my Ioptron tracker, because by buying the mono camera, I wasn't even thinking ahead when I did this, but by buying the mono camera, it sort of freed up an ASI 533 MC Pro. So I had that one shot 533 that I was using on my C9 1/4. So I thought, oh, this would be fun. Let me just throw a camera lens on there. So I went out and I set that up next to where the AM5 was set up, and you put 100 millimeter f2.8 macro lens, basically, that works out being a really good astrophotography lens. I found it behaves really well, and I wound up shooting, just pointing it towards like just a little bit below the belt stars of Orion, to get that sort of flame, the horse head, and then M42. And I wound up I took like what was it? I wound up just letting it run. So it ran for about an hour and 18 minutes it is. And I did 156 30-second subs, nothing guided, just basically running. I did a good polar align because I had the camera to do the polar align through the ASI Air. So I could show that if anyone's interested in seeing that little picture. It's like a really cute little rig. It'll be my new EAA thing, Tom.
Let's see
30
it.
seconds, you're down.
I'm like going into the 30-second zone.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
down to 10 seconds
Me
like
and
the
Tom
season,
are gonna come after you now.
Let's see it.
but I'm in the right direction.
Stay in your lane, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see here. So here, let's do this. I'll bring the folder to that window. So this is the rig. So it's the 100 millimeter Canon 100 millimeter f2.8 macro lens with the ASI 533 MC Pro ASI Air. The guide camera's hooked up, but I didn't use it. And then a red dot. So that'll kind of be the rig. And I've even tried it with the 100 to 400 millimeter zoom that I used when I shot the Eclipse, and it works really fine with that. So that's that. And then this is the let's do this. So this was like an hour and 18 minutes worth of data with that setup, which I think is cool. It's about 6 degrees, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good size
It's like
field.
my bino view. It's great. It's huge.
Yeah, it's like a little over 6 degrees on each side.
Wow.
So it's kind of like an ASI, it's kind of like a C-Star with a wide field of view
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
because of the sensor size. That sensor's 3,000 pixels on a side.
That's nice.
We don't need an S30. We'll just borrow Gary's setup whenever we want to do wide field.
And by doing the 30-second exposures, I actually had it where this wasn't even blown out, but I wanted to get a little more of this background to kind of see what was out there, and it wound up blowing out the core a little, which is to me was kind of fine because it's when you look at it, it's really bright, right? If you were looking at it visually.
Yeah.
So that that I think by doing the shorter exposures, it allowed me to not blow out more of that because I didn't have to deal with like doing some kind of an overlay with shorter exposures for the really bright thing. And that's because I've seen some of the C-Star stuff where it's doing 10-second exposures, and you can process it such that it's not blowing out the core at all because it's not saturating at that low an exposure time. So that's why I kind of biased it down. Plus, I didn't feel like dealing with the guider. So let's see.
Great. The stars are in control too. This is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was looking at
Yeah,
that.
it is
The
neat.
belts, especially that's almost you always look at that star in the last star in the belt next to the flame, and that thing's always a bear.
Oh, it's Steve. Steve knows that.
Yeah, on attack.
Oh,
Home attack, yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I wish I had paid a little more attention. I actually wanted to get this star in there, the 3 belt stars, but I don't have it. This is just the tracker, so I'm like using the red dot, to just kind of
You're trying to guess where you're at.
And then I was running out of time, and I knew clouds were coming in, and I was pretty cold at that point, and I thought, look, just this is close enough. But it's like I almost wish it was further away, like totally cut out, because I was so close and I didn't get it. But anyway, that's that.
that's fun.
That's pretty
Neat.
cool.
And
Very nice.
where's stop sharing? Oh, here we go. So it's either one extreme or the other. It's like I'm going to be pulling whatever hair I have left out with this mono setup because I keep hearing John's voice in my head
You're
saying,
in deep.
"Oh, why are you really doing this? Are you sure you really want to do
That's
this?"
why I'm shooting black and white pictures. I'm too lazy.
John is laughing at every moment here.
I tell
Getting
you,
his revenge.
I was thinking about them when I was setting up the file directories because not only do I have my lights, I have my lights from this filter and my lights from this other,
Oh man.
and my lights from this. And
Two
now
sets of darks.
even just pointing to the stuff, and copying. Now it's like, what have I done?
On
I could have done
each
this.
filter, you need another focus on it. Are you focusing each filter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah,
worth it.
even though the filters are the same thickness, so they're supposed to be the same focus. They're basically parfocal. I have it set up to focus on them. Have you gotten results yet, Steve, with your setup?
No. No, it's on it's out there. It's on the setup. The setup had a lot of trouble with it the last time I went to run it. And so I'm just waiting for a nice warmish day to go out, figure out what's going wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
I've noticed in the little bit I've done with mono too is that guiding. Well, my guiding is going. I'm using the Duo, the Duo, and using the guiding the chip on the Duo when you switch from filter to filter, it has a problem sometimes, and I've switched to an external, a real guiding camera.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I have an external guide on this. I wound up I toyed with getting the Duo, but it really rippled too much into my like the optical train. I just didn't want to deal with the headaches of I have a 2-inch focuser and 42 millimeter tubes or threads on the 2-inch tubes, and it's kind of like it would cut off part of the guide sensor if I use just my existing focal train.
Mhm.
So I said, look, just my external guiding is like it isn't broken, so why are you trying to fix it? It's a tiny little camera with a tiny little guide camera in there, and it works. So I was nervous about the filter thing. So has it been significant on in your experience, Brett?
Um, so
With the guide?
I did a few nights with using the Duo sensor for guiding, but I found myself sometimes stopping and going out when it was on a particular filter and adjusting the focus on the guide sensor, you know, a little wheel on the little, you know, where you adjust the focus on the sensor on the Duo, on the back of the
Oh
camera.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
Yeah.
know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
To get the guiding back, which was a
Hmm.
pain in the neck, because now I'm touching the whole rig. And so yeah, I put an external, like a guide camera and guide scope and camera on it, and I don't have that
Okay.
problem anymore.
Okay.
There
How
was some,
narrow are your filters? I know Gary's are like super narrow.
There are three. I went with those Antlia.
Yeah, those are nice. I
Well,
think.
I just did the no, that was the other thing. I just did 36 millimeter filters. So they were like, I don't know, $400 cheaper or something. It was like crazy amount cheaper than going to like 2-inch filters.
Those two, yeah.
Because if I went with the Duo setup, I would have needed the bigger filter wheel. And I
Yeah.
also wanted to keep it as small as possible because I want to travel with this setup when I'm in the van.
Yeah.
So for
Hmm.
me, it wound up, even though I kept thinking I was going to buy the Duo at first, I wound up at the end saying it didn't work for my application. So I wound up, that allowed me to downsize the filters. I mean, they were expensive enough as it was. Even the 36 millimeter was like, it's sort of like, this is real money, buying these little teeny pieces of glass and then putting them in the wheel and like, let me not drop one on the floor kind of thing. So,
Well, the filters I have are nowhere near the cost of the ones that you have. You know, those are very expensive. Even like you said, the smaller ones are still expensive.
they are, but then you look at it compared to like Astrodon or the Chroma, and that the whole set that I bought of 7 filters is the cost of one Astrodon or one Chroma filter.
So you bought
Oh
a
my
set?
God. I mean, like to me it was expensive, but it was still like at least within within reach. It was sort of like, okay, I'm buying these once and this is done. And I think this is as far as I'm going with an imaging setup. I really do. I don't.
So, but you're still probably at $1,000 for those filters.
It was 1200 for the
Yeah.
whole set for the LRGB and the SHO 3 nanometer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was significant. And that was 5% off. I think it would have been 1290 or something. They had some holiday thing that if and I actually stumbled upon the coupon by accident when I was on the website. And I called them to ask. It was Woodland Hills had the stuff that I needed in stock, so I wound up buying it from Woodland Hills because the camera was out of stock in at a lot of places. I think a lot of people did year-end buying because of tariff fear. Same as me. I've been on the fence with this for like a year and a half. Get off the fence and do it before you wind up paying through the nose if you do it later. Who knows what's going to really happen, but that was what I was thinking, and let me just do it. So yeah, there was a 5% coupon. So I think it's 1290 is the base price for them.
Yeah.
The neat thing with
The-
Woodland Hills is that they didn't charge sales tax, which I like.
the set I'm using now are the Botter 6.5 nanometer. They were the SHO, I think, were about, the three of them were $700. But I'm setting up another mono system, and I got the Antlia 2.5s.
Oh,
Yeah,
the new one's out.
yeah.
Are yours 2-inch, Brett, with your Duo?
Yeah, 2-inch, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did that too, because you mentioned, I think that in the last meeting, Gary, that you went with the larger size filters because you may eventually switch to a full frame camera.
Well, I did that on my filter holders.
The filter holders, right, right.
Yeah, those I did because I do shoot full frame with those. So like if I'm using my SLR,
Your DSLR.
yeah, I can attach that to that same setup.
Okay.
That's what I was doing before the 533. Yeah, so I do have a filter slot for that, and I do need the 2-inch for the full frame.
These are what size are the ones that you got? Or the 36?
Yeah, these are 36 round unmounted.
Mounted.
Yeah, they're unmounted, so you have to screw these little retainer, like little plastic.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Fortunately, the screwdriver they give you with the kit has a magnetic tip.
and you got to make sure you put them in the right way, in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah, you got to do the either like use a little pointy object test to see if there's a shadow, and the side that doesn't have the shadow goes towards the telescope. The side with the shadow goes towards the camera, and that reduce
Right.
that so you don't get halos on bright objects.
Well, you know, these are threaded, so I.
Yeah, you didn't have to think about that, right?
Yeah.
No, and then you get the conflicting results. So the luminance filter is basically just a IR UV cut filter, right? And my history is that they don't have a side. They're basically usually coated on both sides, and so I see this one YouTube video about how do you put these filters in, and there's a dozen of them, right? And the guy says it doesn't matter, but then he flashes a thing on saying, actually, I found out later that it does matter, that even the luminance has a certain orientation. So now it's like I got everything open on the counter, and I get this conflicting thing, and then I go to another site and they're saying, no, the luminance doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. And then they say, well, you can go to the Antlia site and they have detailed instructions. Well, I couldn't find anything about that. And it's kind of like, an hour goes by because all I want to do is screw these filters in. I had turned the heater off because I didn't want to generate dust, and I cleaned the area. I don't want, just let me get this done. So I don't know if it matters. I doubt it, but it's in whatever way it went in. It's a 50-50 shot, the luminance. I don't know.
Oh, the more you suffer, the better your pictures are.
I don't know. I'll see
Yeah,
if it's worth it. One thing I did notice.
Where'd you get that, John?
Yeah.
I tell myself that while I cry and go to sleep.
Yeah. Even with the test shots, I did notice that the monochrome camera seems to be less noisy. It just the images look less noisy than my one-shot color. And it's the same sensor. It's a 2600 mm versus the 2600 MC. And I don't know if it's just because of the color mask. Like when you look at the noise of a color sensor, it almost seems like it has kind of rainbow stuff going on, or you can see different color pixels because it's color. And but so the monochrome seems to look more uniform in terms of the noise field. So I don't know if that's going to translate into better fidelity of the image or what, but we'll see.
Hey, speaking of filters, I got a L-Quad filter. Is there any advice for using that? Or when to use it, when not to use it?
I've been using mine for just more like broadband kind of stuff, like if you're shooting galaxies, or even something like M42 is really pretty broadband. I've had good results with that. I've been using that pretty much standard on that 9.25-inch setup that I have out back.
Okay.
So I think if if you wanted to do bring out nebulosity and deal with light pollution, then you're going to want something more like a narrowband filter. But for broadband stuff, I found it to be pretty good in terms of not introducing a lot of color shift.
Does using the L-Quad let you shoot when the moon's out, or does it not affect the?
I haven't done it with the moon. No, the moon I usually don't I mean, I shot the other night on the moon and I put a 32x neutral density filter on.
No, not shooting the moon specifically, but when the moon is out, does it
Oh,
help
I see what you
when
mean.
you like days that you can shoot with the moon out?
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't think would make, I don't think it would be particularly effective against the moon. If
Okay.
you look at the absorption, like spectrum for that, there's 4 really narrow absorption areas, and 2 of them I believe are for mercury and 2 for sodium, and it's just those lines. And the moon is so broad spectrum that it acts kind of like an LED lamp, and it's really hard to filter with that particular filter. I don't think it would be that effective.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, overall, I think for galaxies and things like that, I mean, I thought that it really helped from my area, which is, Bortle 8. I did a lot of shooting with that in the spring, in galaxy season. And I thought the results were much better than without a filter.
Okay.
For the moon, you probably want 10 nanometers or smaller, just H alpha only. It's my guess.
Okay. Hey,
Which is
I'm
more
just
of a
starting with
narrow band.
filters, you know. I didn't go crazy.
Just start imaging the moon. That's all you can do.
I first need to just get outside and do something. So I got a new mount and I haven't tried it out yet. So I gotta get that set up and see if that works well.
You guys were mentioning the pain of this hobby. I have I guess a quick story and that relates to that, if we have time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was able to pick up I got a good deal on a used Rasa 8, which I was told by a few people don't do with that because of how temperamental they are.
Okay.
But yeah, this is all I'm doing, so I figured why not some more pain. So I got the scope and I collimated it. Then I had a problem with or challenge with back focus, which always seems to be a challenge for me. And then there was I think that the scope that is that fast has a got to be real careful about sensor tilt. So I had to play around with the sensor tilt a little bit. And then the diffraction spikes, because of how the cabling came off of there, I was shooting M45. The diffraction spikes were all kind of uneven. I understand you're not going to get rid of the diffraction spikes with something like that. So I finally got everything working for just a test shot, and I got this. Oh, I didn't share my screen. I guess I better do that quick. So I got this. This was only about 2 hours of data without any reference frames, and I was really excited about it. I still have these halos here, but the diffraction spikes are kind of even, and everything looks kind of good on the corners. So I brought that scope in. I went to put it on the shelf, and I promptly banged it into the shelf.
Oh, oh
So
no.
I have no idea what it's going to look like. The next time I take it out, I may have to go through that whole process again, assuming I didn't break anything.
Yeah, hopefully
But
not.
for
Camera's
one
still
fleeting
on it?
moment, I had a nice image.
Exactly.
Yeah, was the camera still attached?
The camera's still attached. Yeah, I had a dew shield on, so that didn't get nailed. But the camera was attached as I banged it the side of the body into the into the shelf. So we'll see what happens.
Let's see that
I
picture.
would think that if you didn't break the corrector, you're probably okay.
Good, thank you.
You
See that?
know, I have an 11. I have the 11. I
So
think you're
how
probably fine.
are you? Do you have to do you collimate that frequently, or do you just real
I've
careful with
never
it?
needed to collimate it. And I have the version 1. You have a version 2, which is much better focusing mechanism. But I have an old one. I have a version 1, and I never had a problem.
What do you do for the cable for the cable management?
I just generally just make 2 I mean, I have one for power and one for data. So I put them at 90-degree angles, so I have spikes, but there are a lot of 3D printed cabling, curved cabling
Yeah.
units available for very inexpensive. I think if you did a search, you'd be able to find curved devices for that.
Yeah, that's what I ended up putting on it for that last image was I
Right.
got it was like a $15
Yeah.
3D printed, which I don't quite understand why that makes such a big difference, but it did make a big difference in it.
Yeah.
But I was just curious if there was something else that I should look at doing.
Yeah, it doesn't eliminate the diffraction. It just kind of spreads it out on the
More-
field, so
More evenly, if you will. Yeah.
more evenly. Right.
Exactly perpendicular. It might look neater, but good luck. I hope nothing happened to it, but that's something that I would do. Brett, I mean, I had the roof of my observatory smack into my telescope, and it's still alive. So keep your fingers crossed.
Let's hope.
How fast is
I've
that
never
scope?
moved that telescope with the camera attached.
Oh, is that right?
I'm just sharing.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, okay.
I always was cautious by nature. I'm just mentioning that,
Oh, well,
but
thank you for the-
I think, I bet you're fine. I bet you're all right. If you didn't break that corrector, I bet everything's fine.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. I'll report back to the group after I get it up.
Yeah,
again.
hopefully you're good.
It's John, I think it's a 2.0.
Wow. That's so
That-
much data so fast. That's great.
So Brett, would you have to use different filters for that if you were using your
Yeah.
mono setup because of the angle? Because the f2 is so steep that it
Right.
shifts sort of the break points of the
Yep.
filter.
I got it with the Celestron makes a filter for that, which he came with it. I had the 533 color camera on it now. Yes, and I do have targeted a set of. I'm kicking around whether I'm going to keep shooting color, whether I'm going to switch to mono. But the problem with shooting mono, you got to change the filters manually because you can't put a filter wheel on it. But regardless, yeah, you got to get a set of filters that are designed for a fast system.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. That's cool. Well, fingers crossed for your collimation and
Thanks.
the survival of the telescope.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully you're good.
I mean, we've all done stuff like that over the years, and it's a bad feeling.
The other thing I've learned, there's several things I've learned. I could probably jot them down and have them available to the next guy that takes up this hobby. Is to not to rely on just the forecast for whether we're going to have a clear sky or not. And last night's a good example. It was forecast to be kind of crappy, middle of the evening on. And when I looked outside, at least here at 11 o'clock, it was crystal clear, and I didn't have a piece of equipment out.
Didn't we try to do that, Gary, on our website when we were, setting up the imaging page? Tips and tricks and all. Like, one thing would be like never trust a weatherman, and then the other thing would be, if you look through I mean, I haven't updated that in I don't know how long. We should really update that page that we have. There is a page that actually has a map with the wind. I don't know if you guys know about it. And
On the DVAA page, you're saying?
Yeah.
The astrophotography page. Yeah, that hasn't been touched in ages, I guess.
Yeah. We haven't done anything with that. That's what we had. Remember, we first started, we had the imaging challenges and then
Yeah.
We should bring that back.
Yeah, who wants to do the work though? I forgot my
Well,
way.
John's got nothing else to do. He likes websites.
Homer disappear.
John will do.
Al's been trying to get me to do stuff already. I love him,
Yeah,
but I'm a
yeah. You have carte blanche. Do whatever you want over there.
carte blanche.
You know, I forgot. Frank is still on there too. I don't know if he wants to even be bothered. We need to get rid of. We need to update the list of astrophotographers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark's on there too. Yeah, I'm just looking at it.
That's right. Yeah, we see
What
him
happened to Mark?
on occasion.
No, nothing. I think he's moving, right? But I guess that wouldn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he was looking at moving to, I think, Wisconsin or something, but he
Yeah,
said he was still
yeah.
going to stay active. So that's
Oh,
why I
yeah, no,
just
I'm
didn't
not
know.
saying I'm not saying to remove Mark. That wasn't the
Ah.
point. It's just that in terms of active, Mark hasn't been active in the group for a while, other than just some posts here and there.
he did do a talk
Ask
for
people. He could be a person to ask.
Gary when you did the veil.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
presentation in what,
Yeah.
August?
With the doing the mosaic processing.
Yeah, or whatever it was. It was the Hubble palette or something.
No, it was the mosaic processing.
You did the mosaic. I think before that he
Mark
did.
did one the week before. I
Oh
believe,
yeah, Mark did one on. Yeah, Mark did that one that was off the regular schedule on
the
the
narrowband. Yeah.
on narrowband.
Yeah.
Yeah, using one shot color.
Yeah, he came a long way very quickly as well.
Oh yeah, he does great work.
Yeah, which shows that our group is actually working. We actually are making a difference, which makes me happy. I mean, look, now we have our star Brett.
Is there going to be, is there another workshop this summer similar to the one that I mentioned earlier that I attended? That was a
Yeah,
green.
you're going to run it this time.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
I-
exactly. I don't think there's anything planned. I haven't caught wind of anything.
there's
I don't
what's
think
going
there
on
is.
in March?
March is field trips and like outdoor events, and then I think he's
March
just
has one. March 22nd is an indoor clinic on just beginner telescope use and planning a dark sky observing session. I think somebody's running one.
Okay. There,
They took astrophotography off this year because we ran one, I guess, 2 or 3 years in a row. And the thought was that maybe mix it up a little with some other topics. And they put a questionnaire out. And things like the smart telescopes came out of it and things like that, and binocular observing. And so right now, I don't think there's any astrophotography clinics
maybe we should.
planned.
the one last year was on the weekend of July 26th or 27th.
Yeah, well, we could always set
Talking
something.
about the outdoor, the hands-on clinic.
Yeah,
Brett?
yeah, the one at Green Lane, that's the one, Gary, where I first met you and John.
Right. Yeah.
That was the end of
I think-
July.
I think there are plans for outdoor telescopes.
Yeah, there will be some outdoor clinics. Yeah,
Oh, good.
maybe as early as April, but I'm not sure because the field trip's in April up to Cherry Springs. That is a good place to set up and be around some imagers up there.
Yeah, Tracy and I are hoping to be able to go this year.
Yeah, I hope to be
Yeah,
there.
we have it on our radar, that's for sure. We're talking about it earlier today. She brought it up.
Yeah, I
We would
scheduled
be
that
on
in. I put
the
that
field.
right
We'd
in.
wind up being in the van on the field. So it's a little more flexible for us.
Yeah, I'll be camping again. It's gonna be cold because it's April. It won't be like September. But
Sorry.
I've been there in April before, and it's cold, but you can do it.
Yeah, it's doable.
Does anyone from this group go to the NEAF conference?
Oh yeah,
I have not for years.
I'll spend a lot.
Wade goes often, right?
I would love to tag along with somebody if
Let's go.
if somebody wants to carpool, or do you guys stay overnight?
You want to buy my gear?
I'll
Wait, you
drive.
usually do it
Is that
as
good
a
enough?
day trip,
But
right?
last year was kind of weak. It was a weak turnout at NEAF. Only 70% of the vendors showed up. And I feel bad because there's some of the people from Australia came all the way over for nothing. It was like a big, flop. There was several vendors from all over the world. Usually it's a bumping and jumping, but after COVID, things just went downhill. I'm hoping that changes. As you can get, some deals. Usually they give you a 10% discount. If you're lucky, you can find a 20% discount on equipment.
Do you just go up for the day?
Generally, yeah. It depends. But the past couple times I went up for the day, I didn't need anything specific, so I went up on Sunday, where the vendors are trying to get rid of the last little bit of whatever they have, so they get you get your really good deals there. But if you're looking for something, I would go for earlier. And before NEAF, there's something called NEAC, which is probably even better to attend. That is 3 or 4 day symposium on how to use PixInsight and
Oh yeah.
stuff like that.
At the same location?
Yeah, we can. That I would go to for sure with somebody.
It's the 7th and 8th, so it's right afterwards.
Is it after NEAF or before NEAF?
Yeah, I just went to NEAF's website and it went to NEAC and it says April 7th to 8th, 2025.
Oh, because it's usually before. Okay.
I would agree with
Yeah.
Lou that it was rather weak last year, and there were certainly fewer vendors than there had been in previous years. But I think it would still be worthwhile, especially if you were looking for certain equipment or filters or whatever. Like ZWO was hopping last year. I mean, they had a big crowd. A lot of excitement around their offerings, in particular. So I think it would still be worthwhile if you were thinking of a particular item and that vendor was there, give you a chance to speak with them and, pick their brains.
Yeah, that's a great. You're absolutely right. You don't even necessarily need to buy anything, but that's where you can learn. These people want to sell you stuff. They're all salesmen. They're kind of pushy.
Yeah.
But, you know what I did find? I found a mount for my camera and tripod, so I could put the camera, my DSLR camera, on my tripod with my camera, with my telescope, side by side, so I don't have to get a separate tracker. So
Oh,
Celestron has one that attaches to the telescope itself. This one just could attach to the telescope or attaches directly to the mount. Or I don't remember what company it was that they had that, but there's interesting things there.
Yeah.
If you leave your wallet at home, it could be dangerous.
I haven't been very good at that so far in this hobby.
Brett, you already have 7 telescopes, and look what you're putting out already. I think you have enough gear,
Yeah.
and you're doing a
Oh.
fantastic job.
Few more sets of narrowband filters and
Yeah.
Well, that's a good. You can buy narrowband filters.
I'll just do.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, if anybody's looking for somebody to carpool with, count me in.
Yeah, we'll go.
Tom Nolasco, who's not here to defend himself anymore, he signed off. He always says, the money's not going to spend itself. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, visiting ZWO at last year's NEAT ended up a little expensive for me. So
Oh, you both,
they had some excellent people there helping to talk you into buying stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we should convince Gary to drive so we can get more stuff in the van when we come
There you
back.
go. That's right. I'll take the bed out. We can pile it to the ceiling.
Shopping bags.
Actually, the bed's a good cushion for the OTAs. When I go to the like the Fort Washington fair that we have that the club has, that's what the bed has the OTAs, so I can just carry them out and put them on the mount. So I'll leave the bed in, but it's a cushion space. Oh boy, I haven't been up there in since pre-pandemic.
let's go, Gary.
It's been quite a while since I've been up there. I used to go every year, and for no particular reason that haven't I gone back recently, but yeah, just haven't. I used to love the Teleview, getting the blem eyepieces from Teleview. I thought that was just always a great situation, and they were optically fine. They were like, sometimes they might have been a little bit out of spec. If it was a 12 millimeter, maybe it's, if they have whatever their spec is, if it's 5 or 10%, whatever it is. So they were always good deals. I remember just, waiting in line. You got there early on Saturday, and you had your little pile. It was cash only. You had your little pile of cash, and then you bought, I was doing like an eyepiece a year for the first 5 or 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, it used to be fun. Last year it was not exciting at all last year. Hopefully it'll change. Yeah.
Yeah, vendors that said they were going to be there didn't make it.
Yeah, what did they say? Normally they would give vendors two spots, and now they got 4 spots or 6 spots. I mean, there was an extra row missing of vendors. When you're like, it's a gym, right? When you come in and you look down from the top of the gym onto the floor of the gymnasium, it's like pandemonium. It's like there's so many people there. You can't, elbows bumping into the aisles jam packed. But last year.
Was that a fluke, or you think it's a trend?
I hope it was a fluke. I mean, people were still there from Australia, from Italy. What's that company in Italy that puts out
Prima Luce?
What is it?
Prima Luce?
Yeah, exactly.
They're listed that they'll be there this year on the vendor list.
And there was like little companies from Australia, like one guy that made
the tents.
The tent guy.
Remember that?
He sold. That's probably the only one he sold. He flew all the way over there to sell a tent. But
yeah,
the design was pretty intriguing, and there's 10 different types of tent designs out there. You don't have to get the one from him. There was one guy that it was in the Okie-Tex Star Party that was making them. If you remember him, he was using, if there's posts you use to make a carport that you get by at Walmart or wherever, and then bungee straps, and he designed it so he would make one room where your telescope would be, and then another room would be where you have your computer and everything else. And that would have a cover over it and everything. And the telescope would have the zipper part if you need to, if it rained or whatever. But I don't know. There was interesting stuff. I hope it was just a fluke, not a trend.
Yeah.
There's some vendors here listed that have some pretty expensive stuff we can bring home with us.
Well, let's see. When is he?
It's April 5th and 6th, and then the imaging is the 7th and 8th of April.
Schedule. Yeah, they always have like somebody outside with a telescope with the sun. Yeah, deep sky list. What else do they have? I think they might have had Neil deGrasse Tyson one year. I haven't even looked yet. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna hit the head. Hey.
Yeah. Good job. Good job,
Yeah.
everybody. Thanks for sharing everything. Nice
Yeah.
job, Brett, too.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Good night, everybody.
All right, take it easy.